Hello, everyone, and welcome to Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. I'm your host, retired NYPD Sergeant Bill Cannon, a 27-year veteran of the NYPD. Welcome, everyone, today at 1:15 in the afternoon Eastern Standard Time. You could be anywhere in the world, which many of you are. We have Scotland here. We have people from Scandinavian countries. So the time for us, it's 1:15. For everyone else, it's wherever you are. So yesterday, I did cover this case yesterday, and I just wanted to sort of dig a little deeper into this because we know about, of course, the 60 additional charges, and this was City of Kissimmee Police Department put this out, and I have it up on the screen. Shortly after Madeline Soto's disappearance, several disturbing images and videos were found on Stephan Sterns' phone. The City of Kissimmee Police Department quickly arrested Sterns, who remains in custody with the Osceola County Department of Corrections on no bond. The investigation revealed more images and videos depicting criminal acts. The Kissimmee Police Department provided this evidence to the State Attorney General's office, which found cause to file the following charges: 8 counts of sexual battery on a child under 12, 5 counts of sexual battery with a child 12 to 18, 7 counts of lewd and lascivious molestation, 40 counts of unlawful possession of materials depicting SASP by a child. Horrific charges, but what we all want to know in the true crime community, and many people sound like they're impatient, but why are we impatient? This gives the police the leverage they need and the time that they need to do the most thorough of investigations on this case, to make sure they dig everywhere. They lift up every rock, right? And they look under it and they find out what's happening. They shake every tree. They do what I call a perpology, the study of Stephan Sterns' background. Deep. Let's go back as many years as we have to. We've seen on some YouTube channels, one channel, his friend was calling in and telling him, a content creator, that he knew about his behavior. So then why didn't he tell anybody? It's so easy to talk now, it's that old expression, if you see something, say something. And that's more important now than ever, because we see this poor little girl, the picture I have on the screen right now, died at 13 years old. Could it have been prevented? And the answer to that, well, probably could have been if someone spoke up. And again, this investigation is still in its infancy. And what do I mean by that? Well, this is the question that everyone has, and my little thumbnail up on the screen. The Madeline Soto case, Stephan Sterns faces new charges. How about murder? That's what we're all wondering about. Not just wondering, that's what we're all impatient, aren't we? Aren't we impatient about that? Because we just can't accept that they haven't found, or they haven't leveled charges against the dog that did this, I guarantee you they got the right dog, all right? And maybe it's an insult to dogs to call him a dog. They got the right savage, let's put it that way. Now, what they're doing is they're building a case. And I know we say it ad nauseum that they're crossing their T's and dotting their I's, but that's what they are doing. They're crossing their T's and they're dotting their I's. So this savage that's been arrested, up on the screen there's his mugshot, that he will never, ever see the light of day again in his entire life. And that's why the Florida State Attorney General's office is involved, the Kissimmee Police Department. I'm very impressed with them. I've never really heard of the Kissimmee Police Department before, but I'm really impressed with the work they're doing. And one of the things that I always applaud is the fact that they keep secrecy and they keep the case secret from the damn prying eyes of the press. Because as I say all the time on this show, the press can be our greatest friend, but also our biggest enemy. Do they need to know right now the intimate, intricate, secretive parts of this case at this early stage? The answer is no, they do not know. But at some point, they're going to want to know it so badly that they'll file a freedom of information to get that information. Because what everyone wants to know is the results of the autopsy. And then, of course, the results of the toxicology. Because what's happening, especially I see online and YouTube, is all these people making up stories, making up things, you know. The worst being the guy who said she had a baby bump. Where did that idiot get that from? You know, he made it up, you know. So things like that is one of the only reasons that I hope that more information comes out. So the people that just make stuff up are not able to do that. So guys, hang on to your seats and hang on to your hats, because you're about to enter true crime from a police perspective. And you're about to enter the off-the-cuff zone, the police off-the-cuff zone.
There has to be some common sense.
Yes, sir. They have the car stopped in 10th and Ranch Michael by there.
We still don't know who pulled the trigger.
So prosecutors have filed charges against Stephan Sterns, the prime suspect in the disappearance and death of 13-year-old Madeline Soto, although he still has not been charged for her murder. Sterns, as we said earlier, now faces 40 charges of possessing child SA abuse material that investigators found on his cell phone, along with 7 counts of molestation and 13 of sexual battery on a minor, 8 of which when the victim is under 12. Previously released Kissimmee Police Department affidavits detailing his arrest indicated he had been SA on Madeline, who was reported missing February 26th and was found dead days later. And this conduct had been going on since at least 2022, when she was 11 years old. It's not clear from whether the new charges filed on Monday involve other victims. That's what I always want to know. And when we talk about the thoroughness and the digging deep in this investigation, there is no doubt in my mind that Stephan Sterns has other victims besides Madeline Soto, because he's a sick individual. And predators like Stephan Sterns, yeah, I called him a predator. Predators like this individual, Stephan Sterns, they victimize people their entire lives. And to think that Madeline was the only victim that he had is not facing reality of the amount of victims that this type of offender can have over his lifetime. The state attorney general's office has been working closely with the Kissimmee Police Department and received evidence that gave them a cause to file formal charges against Stern. Orange Osceola State Attorney Andrew Bain said in a statement announcing the new charges, "We appreciate the thoroughness and detailed attention of their investigation and will continue to work with our law enforcement partners to build a strong case against the defendant. Law enforcement officials have not addressed publicly the timing of murder charges against Sterns as detectives continue investigating what happened to Madeline on February 26th. An additional complication may be the inconsistencies emerging from interviews with Madeline's mother, who has not been named as a suspect, despite the conflicting accounts of what happened the day Madeline was reported missing. So many of you guys in the YouTube and the true crime world have become, not all, I said many, have become sympathetic towards Jennifer Soto, who you see a picture of her right there on the screen. That maybe some feel that she was perhaps bullied and terrified against this predator that was living in her house. And that's why she didn't come forward. And that's why her statements were inconsistent. Her statements were lies. Really, they were lies. Why do people lie? Why do people lie? When the stakes are so high in this, people lie because they want to cover up the truth because it will impact upon them. That's why people lie. And do you guys think that Jennifer Soto is telling the truth right now? Well, right now, what happened, inevitably happened, was that she's invoked her right to counsel. So some of you guys that are unfamiliar with the American criminal justice system, once you invoke your right to counsel, once you attach an attorney to yourself, the police are no longer allowed to interview you. They're no longer allowed to speak with you. You're protected by that right, the right to remain silent, the right to be represented by counsel. And that's what Jennifer Soto has done. Does that make her guilty? Does that make us believe she's guilty? I think a judge would say that would say to a jury, you have no right to believe that because this person invoked counsel, that you cannot read into that and think that that person is guilty. So should we be thinking that also as a fair-minded public in regards to her role in this, or potential role in this? Investigators were initially told, and this is according to the Orlando Sentinel, investigators were initially told by Jennifer Soto that Sterns, her boyfriend, last saw Madeline after dropping her off blocks away from Hunters Creek Middle School. Jennifer Soto said she saw Madeline get ready for school that morning, and it wasn't until she went to pick her up that she was told her daughter never made it to campus. Sterns also told investigators he dropped off Madeline in front of Peace United Methodist Church between 8:25 and 8:40 a.m. and watched as she walked the rest of the way to school, according to an Orange County Sheriff's Office incident report. But Sheriff John Mina and Kissimmee Police Department Chief Betty Holland later told reporters Madeline was likely already dead that morning, casting doubt on the accounts of Soto as well as Sterns. Video evidence allegedly shows Sterns throwing her belongings into a dumpster at a Kissimmee apartment complex around 7:35 a.m. Footage later purportedly shows him returning to the dumpster nearly an hour later with Madeline visible and likely dead in the car. Madeline's body was found hours after the press conference in St. Cloud. We appreciate the efforts of our partners in the State Attorney General's office in assisting with seeking justice for Madeline, Chief Holland said in a statement. With this being a complex case with many facets, our work is not done, and we're continuing our investigation into the timeline leading up to Madeline's death. Sterns' arrest came early in the investigation after a search through his cell phone found a collection of photos and videos depicting child essay dating at least to 2022. An affidavit described 2 files found on the phone, allegedly depicting Madeline in what appeared to be the apartment in Kissimmee where she lived with Sterns and Soto. Details on the other materials found on the phone were not available in recent court filings. Sterns is in the Osceola County Jail without bond and is scheduled to be arraigned April 2nd. So all of this information that was brand new, was breaking yesterday, is an old hat. Are we now salivating for some new information? Do we need new information? Or is that keeping everyone somewhat satisfied that this investigation is on the right path? I have no doubt that this investigation is going in the right direction. And everyone here should be so thankful that this savage, Stephan Sterns, is behind bars and going nowhere because the police did an outstanding job. So why are we not hearing about an arrest for the murder? Is there a rush to do that? The answer is no. There is no rush to do that. From the chat, I'm so Jacqueline. I feel like Maddie started to say no to him. Perhaps she said she's going to tell someone unless he stopped. Stephan didn't like that. You know, Jacqueline, so many people have opinions in the chat, in the YouTube world and true crime world, and yours is just as viable as anyone else's. We hope that one day, hopefully soon, we'll find out why. We'll find out motive. And that hopefully will add to, like, this is a death penalty case. So they have some things that they can bargain with. They have some things that they can use as leverage against him. A fatal paper cut, she was consoling him, not the other way around, which is weird. I believe you're speaking about Jennifer Soto consoling Stephan Sterns instead of him consoling her, and she's the mother of Madeline. Yes, I think that's true. Christina, 1973, from the chat, I'm not sympathetic. Christina, I'm not criticizing anyone that is sympathetic, because a lot of things come into that. Some of the things that come into that are that many people have reached out to me from the audience, from the chat, that they've been victims in situations like this, you know, and many have been SA victims in their own homes as children. And some describe to me, and it breaks my heart, that they did reach out to an adult, in some cases their mother, and the mother did nothing about it. That's extremely, I say, distressing, that you could tell your mother and your mother wouldn't act upon it. And the situation that people are in can sometimes, of course, make it very difficult. But I think when a child tells his mother that something like this, of a crime, a criminal nature, that the parent has to act upon it. And we spoke about the crime of omission, which is the failure to act when you're legally bound to act by the law. And someone could be charged with that. And as I said, many people that have reached out are sympathetic to Jennifer Soto. I happen not to be one of them, but I understand where the sympathy comes from. I'm going to play this from Good Day Orlando.
Maddie Soto case, Stephan Sterns is now facing 60 new charges. Court documents show his alleged crimes go all the way back to June of 2019. The charges include 13 counts of sexual battery on a child, 7 counts of molestation, and 40 counts of unlawful possession of material depicting sexual performance of a child. Investigators say the images were found on his phone during the search for Maddie. So far, no murder charges have been filed in this case. We're going to get to more on that in a second. Sterns expected in court next month. And former Orlando Police Chief Orlando Rolone, our good friend, joins us live this morning to talk about this. Good morning, Orlando. Good to see you.
Good morning, Ryan.
Let's start with just the reaction to these charges. I mean, they're hard to even read, and you think this is a 13-year-old. What's your reaction?
Well, it goes to show that this is a very active investigation, and they're looking into everything that they can to ensure that this individual is held accountable for his actions.
One thing that stood out to me in reading these charges were charges under 12. Maddie just turned 13. That means this was at least going on for a year. I mean, that's one of the societal concerns, is this is a girl that was trapped seemingly without help.
And it's a very sad situation, and also shed some light into how far back they're looking into his activity around her and anyone else who may have been present at the time.
Now, there are a lot of charges. One thing we do not see is murder. You've dealt with law enforcement a lot. You know there's a process going through that. So are you surprised he's not charged with murder yet? What might they be waiting for to bring that charge?
Well, you know, it's one thing to have probable cause, but it's one thing to have overwhelming evidence that would hold an individual to be charged or found guilty of an offense. So I think the state attorney and the lead agency in this case are making sure that they check everything and anything that may be questioned during their process before they decide whether any additional charges will be made or not.
Is this a case, we saw where Orange County's already changed what they do. Certainly law enforcement looks at these and they try and think, how can we help prevent this from another kid to happen in the future? When you look at what work investigators still have to do, how much of that goes into it when you try and prevent this as best you can from happening again?
You know, every time you hear of an unfortunate or tragedy that occurs anywhere in the nation, there's always a change. A positive change comes from it, from lessons learned. And this is an example that, unfortunately, from the loss of this little girl, now we have something that is being put in place that I'm sure will be applied throughout the state, if not many states in our country, that will help others, hopefully prevent others from being harmed if some notifications are made early.
Yeah, because as Amy said earlier, it wasn't going to change the outcome in this case, but it might just in the second case and in the next case, and that makes a big difference.
Correct.
Anything else we should watch for as this moves forward, Chief?
I think give time to the lead agency and the state attorney to, come up with their findings. And eventually, I'm sure they'll do an update on what's going on. But right now, it appears that this is a very, very active investigation, and it'll take some time before it's solved.
Finally, when you look at anyone connected with him, how long might that take? Maybe it will turn out he acted on his own. If anyone else knew, might they be charged also?
Absolutely. If there is anything that may lead to someone else being involved, rest assured that the law enforcement agency and the state attorney's office will explore all of those options, and they will bring those individuals to justice.
As a case that has become high profile, and of course, we'll continue to follow it. Always.
So you heard the chief, former Orlando chief of police. A powerful partnership, right? The lead agency, the Kissimmee Police Department, with the State Attorney General's office. Well, what does that really mean? Besides the fact that they just slapped 60 new charges on Stephan Sterns yesterday. Now they have all of the resources of the Florida State Attorney General's office, which includes a prosecutor, of course, and numerous investigators to help out with this case. Because all of us, of course, we are all wanting to hear certain things that'll make this case easier for us to understand. And it's really not understandable. It's not, it's so sad that, and when you hear and you read these charges, it's really disgusting to the average human being that could believe that a man could do this to a child. And it's And then when I see in the audience and in the chat, people who this has happened to them as children, it's really, really, really disturbing. Girl interrupted from the chat, and some children feel great responsibility for other emotions, etc., and don't want to hurt their mother, so they don't tell. Some think the SA loves them until they mature. Girl interrupted, thank you for your comment. I think that's so hitting it right on the head. Radmilla Rixon, predators select carefully their targets. Radmilla, we spoke about the grooming that goes on. And, the grooming is an adult trying to get close to a child, giving them gifts, showing them affection, showing them attention. Yeah, all of that's very true. They do carefully select their targets. Debbie Carroll from the chat, Sergeant Bill, can a mother be charged also with conspiracy? I don't think that would be a charge. I think that what they would, they potentially could get her with is, an acting in concert, and also a failure to act, an act of omission, that she perhaps chose to ignore this. And I think that down the road, we may see Jennifer Soto and charged in this case. And that is why the detectives are doing such a thorough job of investigating this, of digging deep into this. Sal Forster from the chat, a mom may miss signs of once or twice occurrence, but for over 2 years, no chance. She was in the payment shipping Maddie off to the ring and is just as guilty as him. Sal, I have to agree with you. I think to not see signs of this over a 2-year period, either you were ignoring it or something's wrong there that you didn't see signs of this. Pauline Buckles, his court-appointed attorney will say, sure, he has lewd pictures, but he didn't murder anyone. Well, Pauline, he can get life in prison for what was on his phone. So we want the murder, of course, to be solved. But he can actually, as I believe, I think with someone less than 11, I think that's a capital case. Sweetness 44, but if the law wasn't ineffective when she was under 12, is it still a DP case? In other words, can he still have the DP charge on the pics and the videos? Yes. The answer is yes. But they know that some of these crimes took place when Madeline was 11 years old, which by Florida law, I believe, is a capital case. So, Cheryl F., Hoya, Sergeant Bill, and everyone. How are you, Cheryl F.? So, Lucille from the chat, this is so much deeper than just some random guy molesting a child. This is a child predator ring, child trafficking snuff. Lucille, I don't agree. I think that this guy, yeah, surely he has I believe he has lots of victims, but he had a built-in victim in a house that he was living in. And it doesn't seem like this guy was even gainfully employed. Schmitty from the chat, Sergeant Bill, when he is eventually charged with murder, what other charges could go along with that? Transporting a car. Yeah, it's not a matter of if, but when. Schmitty, I agree with you. And obviously, the highest charge would be the murder, and it would be murder in the commission of another felony. And that also can make it a death penalty case in numerous jurisdictions. And what was the underlying felonies? Well, they just slapped 60 charges on him. That was going on. So he was in the commission of committing or covering up a felony. I believe that would rise to the occasion, or rise to the level, I shouldn't say occasion, rise to the level of a potential capital murder case. Diane Morton from the chat, I am not sympathetic to the mom, but I heard the mom was bipolar and on meds. I'm sorry if the mom's meds made her sleep and she just slept through all this. It is hard to believe, but maybe. Diane, something in my career in the NYPD, rarely was someone you arrested, 100% normal. I mean, they all had issues, whether it was bipolar, psychotic, mental health issues. So can we excuse someone because of that? No, I don't think we can. I think we got to protect the children, we have to protect the children in these cases. And, you could feel sorry for whoever you want, but I'm not feeling sorry for anyone in this case right now. Judy B from the chat, it's hard for me to wrap my head around the fact that mom tolerated and supports this creep. Most would toss him out, even if she didn't know the entire story. He was the last person with Maddie. Judy B, something, we so want to know the answer to this. We so want to see the murder charges slapped on Stephan Sterns. And it's going to happen. It's going to happen, but we want it yesterday, And guess what? We're not getting it yesterday. They're going to take their time, and they're going to make sure that this savage never sees the light of day. This savage, and you can read those crimes on the screen that he's accused of, right? You could read what's on the screen and determine whether you have any sympathy for anyone that could be involved in this case. Because what I think and is what this poor little girl, Madeline Soto, was going through for all these years. A child is supposed to be protected. A child is supposed to be loved. Parents are supposed to give that child a happy, healthy, and safe home. That wasn't done in this case, was it? There was no happy, healthy home for this poor little girl. And you know what's the most heartbreaking thing? That they found on her phone that she wanted to run away and live in the woods. And why do you think that was? Why do you think she wanted to run away and live in the woods? Because she was being preyed upon. She wanted to get the hell out of that horrible, awful situation she was in. Rachel Wyatt from the chat, I think the law enforcement are doing an incredible job, and there will be justice in this case. I live part-time in New York City and Paris. The police in Paris sometimes ride rollerblades in the city. Hey, whatever way you can get around quicker, I think in New York City, there's a whole criminal element now in New York City riding mopeds. So I think the police may have to start either mopeds or have more motorcycles out there to address the criminal element in New York City. Pessa, I was the R word in college by somebody I trusted. I called my mom after, and she told me, I can't deal with this now. She hung up on me. My mom was a victim of R in the army. Maybe that's why. Pessa, that's horrible. That's horrible that your mom didn't hear what you had to say, didn't help you, didn't understand what happened to you was a violent crime. That's terrible. I hope that you got, Pessa, you got help for that down the road after that. Mama Bear, Canada, Mount Mon turned, my mom turned an eye as well since I was 6 till 13. I think she just believed the men before me. It's sad. That's why I'm more observant now with my kids and grandchildren. That's the amazing thing about this show. And if I can help anyone through this show address this or just help you to talk about it, that's one of the things this show is here about. I worked many cases like this. In my career as a sergeant in Manhattan North Homicide Squad, on the same floor of our building, 3280 Broadway in New York City, was Manhattan Special Victims. And since I was a boss, sergeant, people love the way I say boss, so I'm not going to say it a lot, but it's that New York accent, boss. Since I was a boss, a sergeant, I would sometimes have to go out with special victims on their cases to supervise their cases. And I saw some horrific things like we're talking about right now. Christina Marie from the chat, from the dates of the new affidavit, it goes back as 2019 and even this year, right? Or is it saying the pictures are found this year, not taken, if that makes sense? Christina Marie, I think they're going back to when Madeline Soto was 11 years old. So that would be 2 years ago. And that would make it a capital crime, a horrific capital crime. Folks, if you like true crime from a police perspective, then you're in the right place. And if you're not subscribed to us, go on our YouTube, hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, ring that bell, hit the like button, share us with your friends and your family, and join the Police Off the Cuff family. If you want to contribute to us, we have a Patreon with 3 different levels, and we also have a YouTube channel membership with, count them, 5 different levels. And the channel is growing because of you guys, because you're sharing it, you're liking it, and we're a community here of people that I think sort of like-minded people. Debbie Carroll from the chat. In my opinion, I don't think Maddie ever came home from the party. Mother knew. I wouldn't be surprised if the mother did it to stop it from continuing and made him do everything else. Just a thought. You know, Debbie, we won't know the exact time frame. They're so right now trying to narrow this. The time frames out here, they're trying to narrow it down so that they can actually put a location and a time and a place that this occurred. But right now, that we don't have that. We don't have a location. We don't have a time. We don't have a place. And these are some of the things that the police are busily working on right now. This is some of Jennifer Soto talking, of course, the famous interview with the TV channel Fox 35 Orlando.
They didn't show me. They wouldn't show me. It was actually my sister was the one at location, and they were letting her know what they saw on camera.
Okay.
But they didn't show it to any of us.
Got it. Okay. Jen, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Please, 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 if you have any information, contact me, contact law enforcement. Any information helps. Maddie, if you see this, please come home. Please be safe. I love you very much. If you have my Maddie, please just let her come home. We just want her home.
All right. Well, good afternoon. So thank you for being here so we can bring as much attention as possible to the case of missing juvenile Madeline Soto. So let me first start by saying, I know as a parent, this is every parent's worst nightmare. Many of our detectives and deputies who are working the case, they also have children. So they're working extra hard to find Madeline. We can't even imagine the pain and anguish that Madeline's family is going through. But I do want to assure the community that we have well over 100 deputies, detectives, intelligence analysts, and specialized personnel who are investigating this case and searching for Madeline right now. And we will not stop until we...
Of course, this is during the investigation. I think this Sheriff Mina was a good spokesperson. The only thing when he used the word, we're very confident that she was dead. I didn't like the choice of words, but he gives an air of professionalism. He's articulate, and he is sensitive. That one word he used, I thought was a little bit not a good choice of words, but other than that, he's done a great job.
Find her. So Madeline is 13 years old. She has been missing since 8:30 on Monday morning when mom's boyfriend dropped her off near Hunters Creek Middle School. Right
from the beginning, that statement that he dropped her off at Hunter or near the middle school. Did that make any sense? That she had to be at school at a certain time. So you drive past the school and drop her off at a church, that there's a huge road in between that and the school. That didn't make a hell of a lot of sense. And when you see where the school is where the church is on a map, it makes even less sense. So all of those things we started, this was earlier in the investigation, we started questioning things like that doesn't make any sense, you know. And then when they said that they saw her on video, and that wasn't true. And I had questioned earlier on in the investigation, did the police tell them that as a ruse to see what their reaction was, to see what they would come back with? Because the police knew that she never arrived at that location. So why did they tell her that they see her on video? Interesting.
He dropped her off actually near the Peace United Methodist Church on Town Loop Boulevard. So I'll kind of go through like a timeline of events as we know it. Like I said, mom's boyfriend dropped Madeline off at about 8:30 a.m. on Monday morning, a few blocks away from the school. At approximately 4:30 on Monday afternoon, Madeline's mom went to the school to pick her up and found out that Madeline was not there and had never reported to school. So she never actually entered the school. And so we also learned that Madeline left her phone at home that day. So we were called on Monday evening at approximately 8 p.m. Our patrol deputies went out there, met with Madeline's mom at the school near Hunters Creek to take a report on her missing daughter. So we started the investigation that night, started canvassing the area.
You know, I had mentioned early on in this case, and I think I've done 6 or 7 episodes on this case, that one of the first things you do, or certainly you do it early in the investigation in a missing person, is that you search the home of the missing person. I don't know how many times there was a 4 or 5-year-old kid missing, and that was the first question. Did you search the home? And they go, oh, and they go search the home and they find the kid under the bed, hiding and fell asleep. So that is one of the first things. And in this case, absolutely, the home of Madeline and Jennifer Soto, and of course, the home that Stephan Sterns was staying in, should have been searched. And then at some point, they determined, not only are we going to search this home, but we need to get a search warrant. We need to process this home like a crime scene. And that's what they did, in fact, but it wasn't immediate.
Looking for any witnesses or surveillance video. So later that evening, while we were doing an investigation, we did obtain an article of Madeline from the house. We called our bloodhound. The bloodhound did an extensive search, which unfortunately did not provide any results about her whereabouts. So our missing persons detectives responded to take over the investigation. So they did interviews with mom's boyfriend, Madeline's friends from school. We were able to access Madeline's phone, and there is information on the phone that indicated that she told people when she turned 13, which was on February 22nd, she actually wanted to go live in the woods.
So right there, is that not for all of us in the true crime community and for the police? They find on her phone that she indicated that when she was 13, she wanted to run away from home and live in the woods. Is that not a sign or an indication of potential abuse in the home? And I think the answer to that is yes. I think it's absolutely yes. Joanne W., I have a feeling they were selling those photos online. Maybe Madeline put her foot down. She wasn't going to do it anymore, and they got mad. Joanne, I don't know if we can just like predict things like that we have no evidence of. I don't know if it really helps the case. But look, anything is possible. there is absolutely anything possible, but minus evidence, I wouldn't just come out with that. I don't think. Kelly Fitzgerald from the chat, Galen at Galen, not sure where you've been, but Biodad was searching for Maddie, unlike the mom. He went back to Texas and made a statement. I mean, I don't know how much her biological father was involved in her life, but there's evidence there that yes, he was involved in it. He did care about his daughter. He came there and he helped with the search. Lindsay Shea, I love to read this stuff in the chat. I'm a huge fan of you, Sergeant Bill. Thanks for all you do and your support. Well, Lindsay, thank you. That's very kind of you to say that. And look, as much as we do this, and this to me is a labor of love. I love doing this show. It brings me back into being a cop again, being a sergeant, being an investigator. And I think I try to analyze this stuff, and I try to be fair. I try not to be sensational. Some of the things that you see on some of these channels get a little bit outrageous. I won't name anyone by name, but some of the things that I don't really don't condone. Crack a cold case. I called this case from day one. My heart is broken. Mom knew everything. Huge Peter ring picked away at no murder charges because Stephan and mom are rolling. Crack a cold case. You know something? Much of what you say, I agree with, and I think that I really do think that down the road that Jennifer Soto is going to be charged. I really, in my heart, think that. But that's just my my police investigator instincts, because when there's deception and when there's lies, when there's untruths, when there's inconsistencies, usually there's a reason for it. And usually the reason is that there is some real deception there. I'm so Jackal. I'm sure they found timestamps on his computer, cell phone that showed evidence of abuse during that time frame. They all have his data. Jacqueline, Jacqueline, you're 100% correct. And we spoke on previous shows about this, that how important digital evidence is. In almost every major case we cover on here, digital evidence is the derivation of the most important, powerful evidence comes from digital evidence. Rogeria Brito, like you said, there's so much we still don't know. Rogeria, you're 100% right. I like your first name. I like that. It's sort of a derivative of Roger, right? Must be the Italian female name of Roger, Rogeria. I like that name. Very nice. Debbie Carroll, crocodile tears from both of them. Yeah, we can't believe anything that Stephan Sterns. He's crying, and then we find out a day or two later that he's got these horrific images on his phone. Just outrageous.
So that was in her.
This is the sheriff again.
And so during the course of the day on Tuesday, detectives and deputies conducted extensive interviews, an extensive canvas. We collected video from the area. And again, conducted interviews with family members. So on yesterday, we distributed flyers in the area near the school. As a matter of fact, Madeline's family had their own flyers. We're also distributing flyers to family and friends and students at the school at the same time. So the house is in Kissimmee, where the family lives, is being held overnight by the Orange County Sheriff's Office. And
so that was, he was talking about this again early in the investigation when they filed, of course, for a search warrant, on the home, because now it's going to be potentially a crime scene.
Boulevard around 8:30 didn't make it inside. Stephan Sterns, now named prime suspect in her disappearance. Sterns is the longtime boyfriend of Soto's mother, Jen. You can see him here in the background of our interview with Jen Soto Tuesday.
I went to pick her up after school, and she wasn't there.
Sitting behind her, Sterns is fidgeting and cracking his...
It's unbelievable, because not only was Jennifer Soto, I think, not believable in this interview, but look at Stephan Sterns. It's just like it's like a poster of a perp, you know?
His knuckles.
That's a way to release tension. The point is, tension is actually one of the 27 what we call points of interest that can lead to possible deception or suspect behavior.
Human behavior investigator Susan Constantine isn't connected to this case. We asked her to weigh in on Sterns' mannerisms.
In my personal opinion, I would have said, Sheriff's Office, you need to take a really good look at this guy. He is presenting to me suspect behavior.
Right now, Sterns is behind bars, charged with sexual battery and possession of material depicting sexual performance by a child. Sterns, voluntarily handing over his phone, stated he accidentally factory reset the device the day Soto went missing.
That is such a, and I wish Professor Mike Geary, retired NYPD Sergeant Mike Geary, was on the show. He uses that term all the time, consciousness of guilt. Guilty people do things that implicate himself. And doing a factory reset on his cell phone on the day that Madeline Soto disappeared, you think that is a guilty mind? You think that is consciousness of guilt? Do you think that? And look at this guy thinking that he could just delete the whole contents of his phone, when even me, who's no computer genius or phone genius by any stretch of the imagination, knows that you can't erase it. It's in a cloud somewhere, cyberspace. That's what they call it, cyberspace. And you would think that this guy would know that, especially since he's a pervert trying to cover up his tracks.
On it, investigators recovering disturbing photos and videos. An arrest warrant from Kissimmee police revealing details too graphic to air.
What about Mr. Sterns?
The 37-year-old being held without bond, refusing to show up in court Thursday. Retired detective David Nutting has dealt with hundreds of suspects over the years.
How frustrating is it when you have a prime suspect who is refusing to play ball or give up information or just answer questions?
It's especially frustrating in cases involving children, because it just seems so right in human nature to just tell everything you know. I mean, this is a truly innocent victim. This is somebody, Maddie, a young girl who did not live a high-risk lifestyle, and she's.
That's when he's talking about. When in the homicide world, there's something called, your risk of becoming a victim, and of course, there's low risk, medium risk, and high risk. And many things will put you at a low risk, medium risk, high risk. Obviously, a low risk to be a victim of murder should be a little girl who's living at home with her mother that's 13 years old. Almost should have like zero risk, right? And then, of course, if you look at someone who's high risk to become a victim of a murder, then you're looking at someone maybe that's working out on the street, pitching drugs, something like that. That would be a high risk. And then medium, you guys get the gist of it. So a young little girl that's living at home with her parents, with her mom. Well, and then this is where the problem came in, is that you get this pseudo stepfather. It was called in the initial report that he was her stepfather. And you bring in this dangerous pedophile into the home. And this is where problems come. Look at, there she is on her 13th birthday with her cake and candles, and such a normal everyday thing that every child on this earth celebrates a birthday. And yet this was to be her last one. This was to be her 13th birthday, and it was going to be her last birthday. How horrific is that?
New charges have been filed against Stephan Sterns. He is the lead suspect in the death of 13-year-old Madeline Soto, whose body was found earlier this month. Meredith McDonough is here to explain that these new charges are not connected to Madeline's murder.
Sheldon, not murder, but still a total of 60 new charges have been filed against Sterns in connection with the death of Madeline Soto, who was found dead after being reported missing. Now, the new charges include 8 counts of sexual battery on a child under the age of 12, 5 counts of sexual battery with a child 12 to 18 years old, and then 7 counts of lewd and lascivious molestation and 40 counts of unlawful possession of materials depicting sexual performance by a child. Now, shortly after Madeline Soto's disappearance, several disturbing images and videos were found on Stephan Sterns' phone. He was then arrested on sexual battery charges along with possession of child sexual abuse material. According to officials, further investigation then revealed more images and videos depicting criminal acts, and this is from where the new charges stem. According to those documents obtained by West 2 News, Sterns was abusing Madeline for nearly 2 years. Now, Madeline was missing for nearly a week before her body was found in a wooded area in St. Cloud. Now, again, Sterns is a suspect in her death, but not currently charged with her murder. We'll continue to follow this breaking update.
So that sort of spells it out where they're at right now, of course. But the questions that we have, of course, from the true crime community is, what do they need? What do they need to charge Stephan Sterns with her murder? And I'll put this question to you guys. If they did not have him under arrest right now for these images on his phone and for these actual videos on his phone that implicated him in these horrific crimes, do you think that he would have, or the Kissimmee Police and the State Attorney General's office, do you think they would have probable cause to arrest him for the murder? And let's remember, probable cause are facts and circumstances that would allow a reasonable person to believe that a crime has been committed and the person being arrested committed the crime. Do you think that the police would have already pulled the trigger on this had they not had the other information? What do you think? If you think, in the scenario I just put by, if you think, yes, they had probable cause, they would have arrested him, put a 1 in the chat. If you think that they wouldn't have arrested him, put a 2 in the chat. So the question is, had he not been arrested for these charges of these images on his phone, do you think that they still would, at this point, would have probable cause to arrest him for the murder? 1, if you think they would. 2, if you think they would not. The reason being is that they don't have to arrest him right now because they do have all these other charges, very, very serious charges that will put him in prison for a very long time. So they're waiting. So because they can wait, right? So a lot of you folks are seeing, number one, that you think they do have probable cause. And my feelings are that they did not have the other evidence against him to arrest him and basically hold him in jail for as long as they want, because the next thing, if they don't pull the trigger on the murder case, they could proceed with the charges, these horrific charges, because he'll go to prison for forever, basically, right? But my feelings are, if they did not have these charges, they do have probable cause and they would have arrested him. But I 100% agree with the decision of the Kissimmee Police Department not to go forward right now, not to arrest him right now. Let's hold on to this. Let's build this case. Let's see if, who you see on the screen there, let's see if Jennifer Soto is involved in this case. Let's see what we can build. Let's see if we can build the case further. And again, you must get sick of hearing us say it. Let's cross our T's and dot our I's. Let's make sure when we do hand this case to the prosecutor, it's wrapped up in a bow and it's so solid that, you know, the best defense attorney on this earth won't be able to poke any holes in it, right? So we are waiting, of course. What everyone wants to hear and what's the next breaking news everyone wants to hear is that we want to hear the results of the autopsy. We know we speak manner of death, and I say it ad nauseum every day: homicide, suicide, accidental, natural, or undetermined. That is the manner of death, homicide, suicide. And someone had suggested to me in the chat, oh, I think she killed herself. Well, I go, that's already off the table because the police have already determined it's a homicide. So you can forget about suicide, all right? They've already ruled it's a homicide. Now we go from manner of death to cause of death. What's the cause of death? Strangulation, asphyxia, gunshot wound, stab wound. What is it? We don't know. We don't know the cause, but we do know homicide. The definition of homicide is death caused by another. So we know someone else caused Madeline's death. Who is that person? Who is the person that caused Madeline's death? Janet Dunner from the chat, the interview with the mother when that automatic pet feeder went off. I believe that was his voice on the recording. He pushed the button on it for it to go off to keep her from not messing up. Janet, I don't know if that's true or not, but you know, it's an interesting thought. Truth Seek Human from the chat. Scott Peterson's jury found him guilty in how bogus Innocent Project has gotten him an audience. Lacey's family needs to file. Well, I didn't really want to go into another case right now, but thank you for your comments. Sherry Murray, we don't want to know what happened in the autopsy, but we have to. So, well, Sherry, we want to know what the cause of death was. That's important. Don't you think that's important in a homicide investigation, to know the cause? I think it's extremely important. And so I think everyone that's following this case wants to know. And the results of that, people put other stuff, they've invented stuff in this case. Was she pregnant? I don't happen to think so, but people have thrown that into the mix. So that's one of the tests they would do in an autopsy like this, right? They would do a test like that. So if, say, for example, if she was, would that impact upon this case motive-wise? 100%. I think we already have potential motive. I don't think we really need any more to have a motive. Debbie Carroll from the chat. Mother said she had shorts on when Maddie was found, had jeans on. Did he change her clothes for his DNA? Interesting. Although, you know, something, Debbie Carroll, the mother said so many inconsistent things that we don't know what her credibility is. So I don't know if we could take that 100%. This is from Court TV. They raised some interesting questions here.
His life for at least a couple of years. In fact, Jen referred to him as Madeline's stepfather, even though they were not married. The next day, Jen and Stephan say Stephan gave Madeline a ride to school. They also say Madeline was embarrassed and did not want to get dropped off in front of the school, so she was dropped off at a church parking lot less than half a mile away. That's the last time they say anyone had contact with her. Investigators say the evidence paints a much different picture. They claim they have evidence of Sterns dumping Madeline's laptop and backpack in a dumpster and have images of Madeline dead inside Sterns' car. Madeline never made it to school and was found 4 days later in some brush 22 miles from their home in Kissimmee, Florida. Sterns was arrested after images of Madeline being sexually assaulted were allegedly found on his phone, some dating back to when Madeline was just 11. But at this point, there have been no charges related to her death. And tonight, there are new charges in the case involving sex crimes and child pornography involving Stephan Sterns. What was he doing with all these images? And what about Madeline's mom? Where is she? We look for answers tonight as we continue to investigate the tragic life and death of Madeline Soto.
Stephan Sterns not getting out. It's like, not with all of these new charges that have been brought in this case. He's not making bond, he's not getting out. And if he's convicted of these charges alone, he's done for the rest of his life. but we're not there yet. And there's still a murder that needs to be solved and questions that need to be answered. So let's start with the big news tonight from the Kissimmee Police Department, from the chief. She provided some details tonight about these new charges. Take a look. Shortly after Madeline Soto's disappearance, several disturbing.
So we know all about these charges. We went over them before. And this is what is so horrific about this case. But this was breaking news yesterday. And this is what's going to keep this dirtbag in jail and in prison. I have confidence that they will come forth with the murder arrest, but we have to wait for that.
Child age 12 to 18. 7 counts of lewd and lascivious molestation. Now, if you're trying to put 2 and 2 together here, how do you get 8 counts, 5 counts, 7 counts? These must be videos. These must be videos of the actual
you know, it's just that I don't even know if we need to be this graphic about this, but we understand that these charges are horrific, and if there's any good side to it, is that this guy will never walk these streets again. Nancy H. Lots of SO arrests in Polk County, Florida lately. One for sting got 10 to 15 men seeking to essay a 15-year-old girl. What is going on in Florida, or is this just the only law enforcement unit willing to get these guys? It's scary. It is scary. And, you know, and then we talk about human trafficking, and some of you guys have brought that up. Is this a possibility? And then from the chat, the mother is guilty only because her child was abused for years and killed, not by a stranger. She was abused at her property by some men she brought. Yeah. Is that the case? Lots of times, right? The problem that comes into your home from outside. Mac Carr, he threw the stuff in the dumpster and left and came back with the body in the car 45 minutes later. I'm looking forward to finding out where she was. I knew law enforcement will find out. Absolutely. Rogeria Brito, we all want answers. Madeline deserves justice. I hope he never walks the street again. I'm 100% with you. So where we're going now, of course, is the evidence that the police have. And again, these searches, the crime scene, where the body was found. So important. What was recovered at that location? And these are some of the other questions that we have that we don't have answers to, because the Kissimmee police haven't offered these answers to us. And as I said, I applaud them for keeping this information quiet, because it makes their investigation that much stronger. But it doesn't help us answer this question. Stephan Sterns faces new charges. How about murder? Well, he's going to be charged with that eventually. I can almost guarantee it. And we're going to watch this, and we're going to stay with this, because this is a very important case. And I really touched how in the chat, so many people have revealed things that have happened to them and opened up their own hearts to share it with people. And it's really, it's quite amazing, and it's heartwarming. But I also feel sorry for how many people that this has actually happened to. Gracie Mitchum, they have looked everywhere, but he is not there. Real dad is tirelessly looking for him. Mailman's stepfather saying he just walked out, but no way, I don't know. I'm not sure, Gracie Mitchum, who you're referring to. Nancy H. from the chat, I hope with so much focus on these sad child cases that sentencing of SOs will be harsher. Some repeat offenders only got 1 year for assault. Yeah, it's a crime. If you talk to a psychologist, it's almost, there's not a lot of cure for this type of affliction if you consider it a mental health issue. Many of these offenders, SOs, as you say, continue to offend their entire life. So what are we to do as a society? We track them now. We put levels of their offense, level 1, level 2, level 3, and they have to register when they get out of prison. Is that still protecting the community? I don't know. I don't know if it is. I don't know if it's enough to protect the community. Folks, if you're looking for a great defense attorney in the New York metropolitan area, then Joe Murray is your man. Joe's a retired NYPD police officer and a fantastic defense attorney. You can get a hold of Joe on his cell phone at 718-514-3855. Email him at joe@jmurray-law.com. Go on his website, joe@jmurray-law.com. Excuse me, I mixed up the email and the website. Website is jmurray-law.com. Not only is Joe a fantastic defense attorney, but a huge supporter of the Police Off the Cuff podcast, and we appreciate everything he does for this channel. So, as we discussed yesterday, the most important thing that the police are doing right now is taking their time. Taking their time and putting the tightest possible time frame, time stamps on this, which they have some really good time stamps to put this case together, so that when you look at this person on the screen, Stephan Sterns, that he'll always have bars in front of his face, because that's what he deserves. And when we think about the victim in this case, and the victim's all the way on the left, Madeline Soto, age 13. That's who we're working for, right? There's an old expression in the homicide vernacular, a book called Practical Homicide Investigation by Vernon Gebeth, who was a former NYPD squad commander, who says in his book, in homicide, we work for God. In essence, we're working for God to find out who did this to these people who can't speak for themselves any longer. And every homicide investigator appreciates that and understands that and takes that responsibility on, that he will find the killer of this little girl and who's involved in the murder of this little girl. And no one will rest until those charges are filed. And we believe, of course, unless this takes a turn that we don't expect, that Stephan Sterns will be the one who is going to be charged with this murder. And that's what we're praying, that it's sooner rather than later. Truth seeker human. Therapists, psychologists have to tell clients the limits of confidentiality at first session, so Jen may zip her lips in psych unit. Yes. There's so many potential theories in this case, theories that, we call it hypothesizing, theorizing what actually happened here. And until more information is released, we won't know the answers. Crack a Cold Case, thank you so much for becoming a YouTube channel member of the Police Off the Cuff podcast. Crack a Cold Case, my dad died in prison. My mom should have been there too. He RD'd my sisters for years. Till college, they finally told, that's my legacy. Crack a Cold Case, it's very sad. I'm sorry about that. Miss Chris, appreciate you. Sergeant Bill, thank you for protecting and caring. Guys, thank you so much for being in the chat and to revealing things that aren't so not very comfortable to reveal. Pauline Buckles is the second case in a row of a dad not knowing what is going on with child, Kevin Frankie. Yes, that was another case. Absolutely. Offenders can volunteer for treatment while in prison, but some don't due to other inmates knowing about it. Sort of a catch-22, right? Becky Pulford from the chat. The dumpster may be full of evidence. If he thought it was safe to discard Maddie's bag and laptop, he may also have thought it was safe to place other incriminating evidence. You know, Becky, that's a good point. But I think that the police probably did a pretty thorough canvass and search of the area. They found that, right? And their search of that dumpster was based on video of him dumping those evidentiary matters into that dumpster. Teresa Webb, Bill, there's now some named David Solomon claiming that he was abducted by a trafficking ring that Stephan Sterns was a part of. You're right. This is getting stranger by the day. Well, look, I can't add conjecture to things that I don't really know right now. So if we find out that, we'll look into it, you know. Gracie Mitchum, thank you for covering this, Sergeant Bill. You have a calming manner, and I'm so upset that this keeps happening. Gracie, you know, sometimes, believe it or not, sometimes these cases, it brings me back to what I used to do, you know. And there's sometimes, you know, you talk about PTSD, and sometimes it has an effect on you, you know. Like when you talk about these horrible cases all the time, it brings you back to working for the police department, you know, and it's a horrible thing. Chandra Stevens, some are saying Sterns led the police to the child porn bust in the area. Is there any, you know, Chandra, we don't know if that's true or not. If any of that's true, they would have every reason to keep it quiet. They wouldn't want that to get out there. But I think at some point we're going to learn a lot more about this case than we know now. Legal-minded friends, my friend Karen Cole. QQQ, what if mom doesn't believe police? He was abusing her. Will they show her the evidence? They may. But, you know, something, Karen, I'm not convinced that the mother has been exonerated. I think that the mother may be brought into this case, and in that event, they would never show her because she would be seeing evidence against him and potentially even against her. So I don't think, Karen, they will show it to her. There's so many things that we don't know yet. Teresa Moreno, please stop posting his photo. May beautiful Maddie rest in peace. Well, Teresa, it's sort of tough not to post his photo when we're discussing a case that's about him. And I believe it's to shame him. It's probably a good thing to show his photo to get this mutt, this savage's photo out there. Christina, 1973, right on, Sergeant Bill. Let's all get through this together. Thank you, Christina. And Verdi, the porn ring arrest was led by Federal. They have been watching them since before January. Okay. We don't know where they got their information from. Crack a cold case. She knew, no doubt, y'all. She didn't. She could go down for neglect. How did she get away with it? No one. No. She knew, like my mom knew. Erica Fine, I want to know where Jen's phone pinged during the time he had her body in the car. Erica Fine, you're 100% correct. I want to know where she was. I want to know where she was during all those days. Where was she? The timeline of the birthday on Sunday, birthday party, and then Monday when she's in his car dead. I think that's so important. So important to find these things out. Donald James, yup, the mother knew. So, yeah, I mean, there's many schools of thought in regards to that. Truth Seeker Human from the chat, his photo needs to be shown far and wide and near and far. Show the world and tell what he did. There's evidence on his phone. And another reason to put his phone out there is that his photo out there is that he potentially could have other victims in other jurisdictions. Let's find out the total culpability of this guy. What has he done? Someone may ID him and say, oh, that's the guy that did this or did that. Carmelita, sorry, Bill, in chat, I was guarding but listening at the same time. Thank you for covering this horrifying case, Bill. You just made it a little bit easier to listen to. Thank you, Bill. Carmelita, thank you. You're always so nice. I appreciate you. Joanne W., who went on a long time for her not to know or at least suspect something. Joanne, I 100% agree with you. Becky Pulford, justice will be served. He is where he belongs, away from innocent children. I, again, 100% agree. Cracker cold case. Us survivors need all you good parents to hear this. We need you to protect the children. The parents aren't. Yeah, I 100% agree. Miss Connie, no charges against the mother yet. Well, you know something, they're waiting. They're waiting to see the totality of this investigation and to see where it leads. I wouldn't feel safe or feel like I was free if I was the mother. I would think that Denise Mugrabi, someone on another channel's commented and said, why would Maddie have been looking for her headphones in her backpack at the church if she left her phone at home? Proof that Stephen lied. Yes, I mean, first of all, we know that whole thing is a lie because she never made it to that church. So the whole story is a lie. But, you know, liars can't cover all their lies. So that's why Nancy H. from the chat, Bill, do you believe at the minimum mom will be charged with giving law enforcement false info, interfering with an investigation? Can law enforcement seek financial restitution from mom for the search cost if mom lied? Nancy, I think this case is really too early to conjecture sort of about that. And I think there's a potential that Jennifer Soto could be charged with a lot more serious things than you just listed. Rosemary Gallagher, the FBI and police were undercover investigating the James Cox sex ring since December. They probably recognized Sterns immediately. Wow. That could be a possibility, right? But he's in. He's not going to hurt anybody. He's not going to be out there. Legal-minded friends. Mom's or cracker cold case. Mom's got to get immunity. She's giving so the info that's getting the pedos busted right now. Lieutenant Pete and Richella, hello. Good to see you. Teresa Webb, is it possible that Maddie was murdered in the car and not the home? Yes, there is a very good possibility of that. That's why I also believe his car is a crime scene. And I would imagine that they got a search warrant for his car. I would almost guarantee it. I don't know for a fact, but I would almost guarantee that they did get a search warrant for his car. Miss TJ, thank you for your sensitivity. I'm urging all creators to not release the most intimate and graphic info when the autopsy is released. Maddie deserves to keep that last shred of dignity. Miss TJ, yes, you're so right. Except everyone that's following this wants to know what the cause of death is. We know the manner. We want to know the cause. Folks, that's basically our show for today. I want to thank everyone for tuning in this afternoon. And the thumbnail right there, Madeline Soto, Stephan faces new charges. How about murder? That's what we're all waiting for. And just suffice it to say that when these charges come forth, that this will be a capital murder case with an underlying felony, that he will be eligible for the death penalty in this case. And if ever a case deserved to get the death penalty, it's this case. So I want to thank you guys all for tuning in today. Have a great rest of your day. I'm Bill Cannon from Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. Have a great day and God bless.
One episode just ain't enough.